So, as I mentioned in my opening, I'd like to teach all of you today the gatha "When We See the Golden Sun." But first, let me say a few words about it. So, this gatha was first published in this collection of basically service materials, ritual materials called the Vade Mecum, which I think is Latin for something like handbook, or maybe in this case Buddhist handbook, that was published in 1932. Excuse me, 1932, and published in the Hawaii district of Nishionganji. And so because why Hawaii? Because as you know, the immigrants from Japan stopped in Hawaii first. So actually, the first Shin Buddhist sanghas in America were established in Hawaii. And it was written by A.R. Zorn. Mr. Zorn was one of the first group of Americans to have become Shin Buddhists in the early 20th century. And, someone who sat down to compose songs that gave expression to his enthusiasm for the Dharma. And I think, but, even though this gatha is one of the oldest gathas, I personally have always liked its melody, and I like the feeling of gratitude that's expressed in the song. And I also appreciate how A.R. Zorn used everyday images of light, like the sun and the moon, as metaphors for the wisdom of the Dharma. As I think many of you know, in Mahayana Buddhism in particular, of which Shin Buddhism is derives it from that tradition of Mahayana Buddhism. These use of metaphors and images is a very effective kind of, like, as we say, upaya, or expedient means for sharing the Dharma. One of the things is, incidentally, I first worked on the arrangement for this song that you'll hear later today when I was the musical director of West Covina's choir, which was called the Dharma Tones, before being transferred to the Betsuin in 2014. But in addition, I think the sort of feeling of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, this seeing the light at the end of the tunnel experience that I mentioned in my opening, I think is part of the reason why I like this song. It's kind of described in the song, in using these metaphors, and I think the song really resonates with me because of that feeling that it describes. This sort of sense of relief, that knowing that we've kind of gotten through the worst part of the pandemic, and that things seem to be getting better, at least locally, of course. But on the other hand, in your own personal life, you may or may not feel that things are in fact better. And regarding that reality, as we know, the Buddha taught that life is always full of difficulty, and actually that even happiness is difficult, because it too is impermanent. But in the stories about the Buddha that we can read, it's clear that he was not at all pessimistic about life. I think it's fair to say that he was not pessimistic, he was realistic. And because he was awakened to this reality, he was able to see life as it really is, as impermanent. And because of that, I think he also had a very deep appreciation for the preciousness of life, for his preciousness of his life, and for all life. And I think personally, that's why coming out of the pandemic, even though there has indeed been so much suffering and loss, that I think that we can be, if not actually happy, I think we can be genuinely grateful and appreciative that things are getting better for all of us. And actually, isn't it true that in our experiencing the most difficult times, that there's also an arising of a genuine appreciation for our life. I think this is the essence of the Buddha's teaching, actually, and I think that appreciation is, in fact, something to sing about, don't you? Okay, so before we learn this song, let me add one important thing, which is why I think it's important to learn the lyrics of a song that you are singing. The reason why it's important to learn the lyrics is because you, as a singer, need something emotionally inspiring to sing about, right? You need to recall or to remember some kind of realization, some kind of experience that's made you literally sing. And in a sense, actually, this is one way to understand the emphasis in Shin Buddhism that you've probably heard of on the necessity of relying not on our self-power, but on the powerful truth of reality that's greater than ourself. This relying on this power greater than ourself is usually referred to in Shin Buddhism as the teaching of Tariki, the Japanese word, or other power. But maybe in a more arts-related way or a down-to-earth way, I think it's also a little bit like being an actor, a dramatic actor, and needing to get into character, right? Actors need to know their characters' causes and conditions in order to give a convincing performance, right? They need to know their character's motivation in each scene, and then knowing this and getting into character, their acting performance can become actually more than acting. It can become convincing and authentic. And I think singers, like actors, need to be able to let go of their consciousness, let go of their self-consciousness, and get into the lyrics of the song, and actually lose their self-consciousness, or lose themselves in their art, and thus give an authentic and convincing performance. Let's see here. So let me share with you the lyrics here. So let me read the lyrics for you here. You can see it on the lead sheet too, but when we see the golden sun shining from above, we are mindful of the Buddha's love. O'er us all a pure compassion sheds its steadfast glow. Through the Dharma, wisdom's way will show. When we see the silver moon gleaming bright and clear, we remember still that Buddha's near. Through his teachings here to guide us through this earthly night, out of sorrow into joy and light. In the opening lines here, the image of the golden sun is, of course, a metaphor for the Buddha's love, as the song states. And by the way, this Buddha that's mentioned in the song, I think it could either be Shakyamuni Buddha, or Amida Buddha, but maybe because of the extensive use of metaphor in this song, it seems like A.R. Zorn, Mr. Zorn, was primarily thinking of Amida Buddha, I think, in mind. Also, you might know that the Japanese word for mindfulness, mindfulness is all the rage right now, but the Japanese word for mindfulness is nen, as in nenbutsu or nenju. And mindfulness, nenbutsu means mindfulness, nen, of the Buddha, butsu. And so that's the reference to mindfulness here. Being mindful of the Buddha's love is really very, ancient and also very contemporary. Now, as far as reference to Buddha's love, I think let me clarify that, of course, we don't usually refer to the Buddha as being, loving. But as we see in the next line and the third line, which mentions pure compassion, I think we can see that this love that's mentioned in the song is actually Buddha's compassion. And then the last line of the first verse, I think, is also significant because it confirms that, yes, it is the Dharma that shows us the path to the Buddha's wisdom. So, for example, if we understand the Dharma as being the impermanence of life, then it's our difficult encounters with impermanence that are the necessary teacher, if you will, that then allows us to also see the interconnectedness of all life, the essential oneness of all life. And this essential oneness of all life, I think, is the essence of the Buddha's wisdom. Then in the second verse, the silver moon, gleaming bright and clear, is another metaphor for the Buddha. But this one, I think, reminds us and reassures us that the Buddha is always near. And I think this image of the moon, gleaming in the night sky is particularly timely. If we think of the darkness of night as itself being a metaphor for the dark times that we experience, where we experience all kinds of suffering and difficulties, including, of course, the past 15 months of lockdown, right? Then the moon is the light that reminds us that the Dharma is not far away. In fact, not only is the moon actually reflecting the sun's light, this light, sun's light being the metaphor for the Buddha's wisdom, right? But this moon reminds us that even in the darkest times, the guidance of the Buddha's wisdom is always close by. And yes, the Buddha's teachings of impermanence and interconnectedness can, I think, indeed guide us through this earthly night, through the 15 months of lockdown, through great sorrow, great sacrifice, and great loss, into joy and light. Now, so what is this joy and light? Well, it doesn't mean, that all of our difficulties are resolved and everything is going to go our way from now on. It doesn't mean that. I think my teachers have always clarified that this joy and light means seeing all the difficulties that we always see and will continue to see, but seeing them with a deeper appreciation, with an awareness of the preciousness of our life and the preciousness of the lives of all beings. Shakyamuni Buddha himself taught that this joy and light was, in fact, nothing less than a total liberation from our self-caused suffering. Or to put it another way, it means that our happiness is no longer dependent on things always going our way, but is in fact dependent on radically transforming the way we see the everyday events of our lives. I think that's why the Buddhist awakening is often said to be a transformative insight. Well, anyway, this is my attempt to share the meaning that I see in the lyrics of When We See the Golden Sun. And then, finally speaking personally, as we are coming out of this 15-month lockdown, I can, in fact, sincerely say that I do feel a deeper appreciation of my life, of the many things that I now realize that I'd been kind of taking for granted and hadn't really appreciated before. Things like my family, my friends, my music, and not to mention, more or less being grateful to be in relatively good health. I think as a Buddhist, I can definitely say that this appreciation is the gift of the lockdown. Okay, so enough analysis and verbiage, but let's learn this song. Okay, so if you look again at the lead sheet, I'm first going to play the melody, and I'm going to play the melody as those of us with lower voices would sing it. So you can listen to this recording of, actually it's a recording of Nancy and me singing it together. And I can play it twice if you need to hear it twice, but for now I'll just play it once. But here, listen to this example of the lower melody.
When we see the golden sun shining from above, we are mindful of the Buddha's love. O'er us all of pure compassion sheds its steadfast glow. Through the wisdom's way will show. When we see the silver moon gleaming bright and clear, we remember still that Buddha's near. Through his teachings here to guide us through this earthly night, out of sorrow into joy and light.
So do any of you need to hear that again? You can type in the comments if you'd like to hear it again. I'm going to actually play it again, but I'll be playing next the version of the melody for those with higher voices. So if no one needs to hear it again, let me play the one with the melody for those of you that have higher voice. Okay.
When we see the golden sun shining from above, we are mindful of the Buddha's love. O'er us all a pure compassion sheds its steadfast glow. Through the Dharma, wisdom's way will show. When we see the silver moon gleaming bright and clear, we remember still that Buddha's near. Through his teachings here to guide us through this earthly night, out of sorrow into joy and light.
So could you guess who those voices are on the higher version? The first one I already said, that was myself and Nancy. Anybody, can you guess who the singers are on that higher version? Just to see how carefully you're listening. Of course, you're also trying to learn the melody, but you might go, well, gee, who are those people singing? I don't see anybody offhand. Shall I give it away? Gee, nobody? Okay. And that those are the higher voices were my wife Diane and Trish Nicholson. So first of all, I want to thank my friends Nancy, Trish, and yes, my wife Diane for helping me put together this version of. Leslie. Okay. I guess I'll give Leslie credit because there's a 20-second delay between when I see the Facebook comments and when I actually say something. So, okay. Very good, Leslie. Okay. So, but now let's sing the song. Now that you know it, let's sing the song with the complete version, which is both the high and the low voices. So if you have a lower voice, sing the lower part. If you have a higher voice, sing the higher part. And we'll sing the complete version with all the accompaniment on it. So remembering what I said earlier about singing, and that to really be a singer, you have to have something to sing about. So if you remember, what we talked about as far as the deep meaning in the lyrics of this song, When We See the Golden Sun, I think there's plenty of motivation to inspire you to sing. And in fact, I would encourage you to stand up, not only because you're standing up and sort of projecting your appreciation for the insight that's expressed in the song, but also because physiologically speaking, you'll breathe better if you're standing. It's better to sing standing. And another thing, for those of you that are dancers, you can also dance to the song. I think you'll hear that particularly when I play the complete version. You can dance, you can project the emotional authenticity, thinking about the lyrics of the song, and then you can also be sharing the Dharma, actually while you're singing. So go ahead, do all these things, and and also turn up the volume. And as the Phantom of the Opera said in one of those songs, sing. Okay, here we go.
When we see the golden sun shining from above, we are mindful of the Buddha's love. O'er us all a pure compassion shares its steadfast glow. Through the wisdom's way will show. When we see the silver moon gleaming bright and clear, we remember still that Buddha's near. Through his teachings here to guide us through this earthly life, out of sorrow into joy and life.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. That was a lot of fun. And, thank you very much for your participation. And once again, a very sincere thank you to Nancy, Diane, and Trish. Believe me, we had a lot of technical difficulties. And so I hope I can I hope I can consider that Nancy and Trish are still my friends after everything they went through, and hope that my marriage with Diane is still okay. These kinds of excuse me, ambitious projects tend to be stressful, but yeah. So very sincere thank you to my friends, Nancy and Trish, and also to my wife Diane, and Namo Amida Butsu.